Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. Today's show is being produced for Forbes.com, where I am a contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing. Today we have with us a social entrepreneur from Denmark whom I happened to meet when he was visiting Salt Lake City a few weeks ago. He is Thorkil Sonne, and he has created a nonprofit organization called Specialisterne USA. I'm sure that, Thorkil, you'll correct my pronunciation, but you're working with creating employment opportunities for people with autism, and so welcome to the show.
Thanks, Devin. Great to be on your show. Thank you.
Now, Thorkil, take a minute, if you would, and tell us a little bit about why this is important to you and how this all got started. What's your personal connection here?
Yes, thank you. So some 14 years ago, I was a traditional family man, traditional career man, technical director in an IT company. When my youngest son, Lars, was diagnosed with autism. And as a parent, suddenly to have one family member that has a disorder, a disability, that was a kind of scaring situation. But we very soon found out that he has so many skills, and actually he's a wonderful child, just as his siblings. When he's in his comfort zone at home, he's bright, caring, everything you could want from a child. But in the kindergarten, they saw another child outside its comfort zone. And we were told that they couldn't figure out how to deal with our son. And then he was diagnosed, and we found out that maybe he couldn't take part in the social stuff. So he was diagnosed with autism, and that was an eye-opening situation for me. I was active in the autism organization and found out that, my goodness, there are so many in a similar situation. Bright skills, many skills that could be very valuable. I could see good memory, attention to detail, pattern recognition skills, attention even in repetitive tasks, and also new way of thinking to be just what I needed in my role as a technical director. It's hard to find people like that for software testing, analysis, quality control. So I thought, why is there an unemployment rate of 80 to 90%? We must be able to establish these comfort zones in the companies so we can get access to all the values. And that's when I had an okay from my wife to to hand back the company car and the good salary and start as a social entrepreneur with Specialisterne as an attempt to establish training work environment where it's okay to be on the autism spectrum. You don't have to hide. You don't have to try to cope with social interactions as non-autistic would. We want you to do what you're best at, and then we go and find the needs in the market where people with autism can do as good or better.
So what was the experience that helped you identify your son's special skills?
Well, it was an adventure to find out, because he wouldn't come to you and say, I can do this and I can do that. No, you had to find out yourself to detect. He did many great things. One is the way he organized his own time. He could be frustrated during the weekends because there was no plan, and then we said, why don't you make a plan yourself? And he came up with a very detailed plan. From this time to this time, you do this, I do that. That was pretty amazing. But also one day he drew some sketch with a lot of boxes and numbers put together in a strange way. I didn't know what it was until I remember that that I've seen something similar when we were out on vacation in Europe. So I found the European Book of Maps, and the index page, the first page, had all these boxes, all these numbers, all these figures, and it was a total perfect imitation of that index page that he drew out of memory. And I was like, this is totally amazing. My goodness, any IT company would love to have someone like that. And I felt so embarrassed that he would probably never get a job. And as parents, you really want for your kids to have a good job, meaningful, productive, where the kid can be appreciated and respected for the special personality. And as long as we as parents have the resources, we'll be his interpreter, he will fight his battles, but one day we are not there anymore, and what will happen to Lars? And so we believe that a way to have fulfilling lives is really to have a good job that match your potential, your skills. So it's not just a job, it's actually also a career. But that will take that someone will understand you and be able to create that comfort zone. If you can do that, you will have such a wonderful labor force.
Well, it makes perfect sense based on your experience. Now, how old is your son today?
He's 17 years old, and he attends high school as a sophomore in Delaware in the US. So we relocated to the US last year to bring our concept across the US.
Well, as you and I were speaking just a minute before we went live, this is a big problem in the United States, in that there are a huge number of autistic youth who are beginning to age out of or graduate from school and other programs, and they're at that perfect age to begin getting employment, and yet there isn't yet a real marketplace for them. So what are the things that Specialisterne is doing to actually create that workforce and to create opportunities for these bright young people?
Well, we partner with large companies. SAP is a good example. There's a similar example called an IT company called CAI, 4,000 associates IT company in the US. Both these companies have committed that a percentage of their employee staff in some years from now should be people on the autism spectrum, that we work with them to search, to select, to train, to onboard, and to retain in the companies. And this is where we have 10 years of experience. And it's really, it's not about charity, it's about where are the vacant jobs. And in the high-tech sector, there's a lot of vacant jobs. It can be really hard to find people with the skill sets needed. Like in New York, there are probably about 50,000 vacant jobs in the STEM sector. In the San Francisco Bay Area, the same. And we can really tap into this huge pool of untapped talent. Just imagine, the latest figure says 1 in 68 of all kids are being diagnosed in the US with autism. And it's a lifelong disability, so there are reasons to believe that this could be 1.5% of the population. We are talking about millions. And just imagine if 80 to 90% are unemployed. We are talking about potential contribution to the labor force of millions of people, very much into vacant jobs.
It really is an important thing, and you've helped us highlight the scale. Help us walk through what you train companies to do, how you help the companies accommodate, onboard, and to create that safe place, that comfort zone that you were talking about.
Yes. So basically, it's about changing the mindsets. And we call it the dandelion philosophy, where a dandelion is a wonderful flower loved by kids. But as you grow older, something happens. And if you buy a house with a garden and you see the flower again, probably this time you don't see a wonderful flower, you see a weed. Because now your own norms are being replaced by society's norms. And your garden has to be as perfect as the neighbor's. But the flower is the same, But if you see the weed, you won't get access to the values. If you see it as an herb, you can bring it to the kitchen garden. You can harvest it. It's good for nutrition, medical, medicine, wine, tea, coffee, beer, and you can make a living out of growing dandelions. There's a farmer in Denmark who does that. But it's really to every time you see something that you see as a challenge, remind yourself, do I see the weed or do I see an herb? And how do I see the herb? And this is where we go in and help. So we work with the companies. They come up with vacant job profiles. We go out with our partners. We work with big NGOs who are used to work in the disability space, like the ARC. We work with ARC New York, ARC Philadelphia, with Expandability in California. They have a huge network. They work with the states, vocational rehabilitation and other sources. And then we get a list of potential, maybe 20, 30 profiles that seems to have a relevant education and background. And then we have a pre-selection selection process where we use Lego Mindstorms robots. We have workshops where we invite people to come and build robots and program them and do funny stuff. And at the same time, they show us a lot about the skill set, how they read instructions, how they interact with each others. And then we select people from that cohort into our program, a 4-week training program, where it's really about establishing your comfort zone and grow that from an individual comfort zone to a team comfort zone. We do all the things that normally are regarded to be difficult for people with autism. We do project work, we brainstorm, we do agile development, we use a framework called Scrum that is used in the IT sector, and it's about teamwork, because if we can explain the rules, the expectations, then our people can also do teamwork. And then we assess the special skills that often comes with autism, memory, pattern recognition skills, high performance during repetitive tasks, also new way of solving challenges. And the last week we focus more and more on the work zone to make the match between the comfort zone and the work zone. And then we build a support structure of buddies, mentors, our training partners among the NGOs. Specialisterne is also part of the support structure. Hiring managers, HR manager, to make sure that it's not just about linking this person up to an individual manager. We know there'll be changes. It's about really making the department receptive, understanding the dandelion philosophy, and make this person feel welcome.
Well, it really is a huge challenge, I would think, to prepare both sides, and yet you seem to have found the way to prepare both the young people and the corporation for this accommodation, and really that must be having some good results. What are you seeing so far in terms of outcomes and implementation?
Well, I think I've been in the US for about a year, and we have create job for about 40 people in the US so far. And as the examples from CAI and SAP spread, we're actually in negotiation with a lot of quite large companies right now. We're also very happy that the NGOs, the ARC chapters and other who work in the field are very interested in learning. And we had recently experience from the Specialisterne Young Innovators summer camp at a high school for a group of kids, students on the autism spectrum. And the teachers totally loved it because they could see other kind of angles to this individual than they've seen during the school year. And it really does there's so many opportunities also for internships, bringing people from the education system into the companies in a kind of low risk way, so that they don't have to end up at voc rehab in order to get a job. We have succeeded when we have worked with the education system and the employers, so to make that bridge, because as you said, many people are aging out of the education system, and we have to bring them from the education system into the companies. So we're also working on internships, but it makes so much sense. It's very costly to have so many unemployed people on the autism spectrum. It's costly for the companies who cannot find qualified people in the US, so maybe they have to offshore to other countries or bring in people from other countries. We believe that we can find a lot of these resources in the local community. So it's a huge win-win for everyone.
It really is. It really is. That's a remarkable perspective, and I really appreciate the great work you're doing. I'm sure a lot of people are intrigued by what they're hearing today. How can people engage with you? How can they become part of the program as employers? How, if they have young people who are on the autism spectrum, how do they connect with you? I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to know how to participate, how to help. Give us some guidance on how to connect.
Well, I think if you work in a company, and as most parents, they work in a company, maybe you could go and talk with your managers about these jobs where we can't find qualified people, or the people that come are leaving for other jobs all the time. Maybe we should consider to see, could some of these tasks be done by people on the autism spectrum. Actually, some of the biggest partnerships we have created with companies have been triggered by parents within the companies who went to the top and say, see, this is what we found out. Have a look at Specialisterne and see what they've done with SAP and CAI. Because many companies we have experienced, they are creating kind of an internal grassroots organization of parents or people who care for people with autism within the companies. And I think generally it's well received by the top management. They would like their company to engage in volunteer work like this, and it makes business sense. It's not just about doing good. You can do good and have a strategic and a tactical advantage at the same time, and you'll get some very motivated employees who start kind of building this grassroots. So go to the Specialisterne website, be inspired, search on the internet about articles about our work, and make your managers aware of this program. Yeah, that's. I think you'll be well received.
Great, great. And what's the website, or what are the mechanisms that people would use to connect with you?
Well, you can go to the www.specialisterne.com website. It will be available on this show, and you can search more information, and there are some contact email addresses. And I'll especially encourage people to take the how can your company, your employer, maybe get a benefit out of that, because I can be overwhelmed by parents who have seen an opportunity for their kid, but we need the demand side to act first. We need the companies to come to us and say, can you help us? And then we'll go out in the kind of supply side and work with school systems, with voc rehab, with NGOs to find the right people. But the demand side is the most important. When we can make employers make contact to us, we'll do the hard work to find all the people and set up the best possible transition.
Fantastic. Well, Thorkil, thank you very, very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and I commend you for the good work you're doing.
Thank you, Devin. Great to meet you. Thank you.
Let's do some good.